Welcome to the show. Today we discuss the status of irrigation in Kenya. A sector, if well exploited, could offer solutions to Kenya's food security challenges. A source of employment, not to forget the wider picture of poverty eradication. Now, research shows that Kenya has yet to fully exploit its potential in irrigation, with only 20% of that potential realized. So what is the strategy to overcome the challenges, and what are some of the best practices in the country? But first, here is a look at the fact sheet as usual before we proceed. Planned irrigation in Kenya started before independence. Mwea in Kirinyaga, Hola in Tana River, and Pekera in Baringo are pre-independence schemes. Efforts of the government in irrigation development after independence focused mainly on establishing large-scale tenant-based irrigation schemes. The Ministry of Agriculture eventually took over the management of Mwea, Hola, and Pekera. The National Irrigation Board was established in 1966 to develop, improve, and manage national irrigation schemes. By mid-1970, another 3 schemes had been constructed, that is, Ahero, Bunyala, and West Kano irrigation schemes. The current public irrigation schemes managed by the National Irrigation Board are Bura and Tana River schemes in Tana River County for maize, Mwea Rice Scheme in Kirinyaga, Ahero and West Kano in Kisumu also for rice, Bunyala in Busia for rice as well, and Pekera in Baringo for various crops. There are other small-scale and private irrigation schemes in the country. However, according to the National Irrigation Board, Kenya has only exploited about 20% of its irrigation potential. Irrigation has been identified by the government of Kenya as key to addressing food security challenges. This after the realization that rain-fed agriculture coupled with climate change cannot be relied upon entirely to produce enough food. With that in mind, studies show that the biggest potential for increasing agricultural production lies in the development of the arid and semi-arid areas. But is there enough water for irrigation in Kenya?
We have enough water in Kenya to do irrigation as long as we put up storage for it. It rains quite heavily in this country, but we lose most of that water to the ocean. So as long as we put money in water storage, it doesn't have to be only on rivers. Even people with big farms can have, if you have, let's say 50 acres, what's the problem with putting up a storage of close to about 300,000 on your farm? This is what the colonials used to do. So as long as you can conserve water on your farm or anywhere, then you can carry out irrigation without any problem, and the issue of relying on rain will certainly reduce.
Apart from availability of water, other factors that affect the development of the sector are high cost of irrigation development, farmers' access to credit facilities, coordination of the stakeholders in the sector, land tenure systems, and post-harvest management.
The other one has been the sustainability. As long as the project is not maintained by the government, the farmers do not have that capability to keep it, to sustain it. And therefore the government has had to come in a number of times to try and rehabilitate these projects for the farmers to take it up. The other, of course, is the issue of efficiency. We have a problem because most of the irrigated farms are generally small. We can't be mechanized, and that's why we require an area like Galana or some parts of northeastern Rahole where we are working currently, so that where you can use machines and therefore reduce the labor costs.
Some areas of the country that have been prone to famine are reaping the benefits of irrigation. Turkana County is one of them. We now shift to the much talked about Galana Kulalu Food Security Project, one of the flagship projects of the Jubilee government in the wider vision of increasing Kenya's irrigation coverage to over 1 million acres of land. The project is hosted by two counties, Tana River and Kilifi. The land was leased from the Agricultural Development Corporation. It was started as a model farm to test efficient use of water by applying modern techniques, to test whether mechanized irrigation is viable in Kenya, and to pave the way for public-private partnerships in irrigation.
For Galana, we have started this model farm, and we expect to harvest 20,000 bags, which translates to around 36,000 metric tons of maize, which means that we still have to plug the deficit. We have that shortfall. That shortfall can only be met by expanding the Galana Kulalu Food Security Project by another 20,000, so that the Kenya as a country, as a nation, is able to feed itself.
So the harvest is promising, but critics say Kenya has yet to address the challenge of post-harvest management, given that in many cases the harvest is good, but it goes to waste due to poor storage, poor marketing, and poor infrastructure.
A couple of interventions we are currently implementing. Starting with is investing in marketing infrastructure, which would ensure that the products coming off farm, including fresh produce, including products such as maize, find a clean, hygienic environment where they could be stored. We are also investing in new technology, whereby we have only recently commenced implementation or construction of a facility that is going to produce a biocontrol product called Aflasafe, which would help us in mitigating at the production level aflatoxin. What we are also doing is that currently through the mass media, through targeted training, through open barazas, we are sensitizing the farmers so that on farm they are able to know as soon as they harvest how they need to handle their produce to ensure that it is safe, it is stored in hygienic conditions, and that it can be secure until the marketing time. More importantly as well, we have at this point what we call the warehouse receipt system bill, WRS bill, which is currently in the House, has gone through the first and is going for the second reading. It intends to support the farmers in aggregating their commodities, those that have a longer shelf life, so that they can be able to access the stores, especially the National Cereals and Produce Board stores, store their produce. They are given what we call a warehouse receipt, which receipt acts as collateral, and they can be able to use that collateral to access credit from the banks.
But poor roads is also a big factor. Is that another issue?
You're right. What it is, most of the projects that we are implementing, especially in the highly productive areas, we are also looking at improvement of infrastructure through what you call spot road improvement. We have just completed one such project jointly with the government of Japan. We are at the tail end of completing another project with the EU and the IFAD, where we are improving on the spot, where the patches where it becomes very difficult, especially when it rains, to be able to move products from one side to the other.
Okay, finally, there are those who are concerned, should we have bumper harvest, we have a glut, and then that could affect the ordinary farmers, the farmers in Rift Valley who depend on their income from agriculture, because if the price of unga comes down, it means they're affected, they'll not get much, and they'll be discouraged from farming, and they become poorer.
It's good to view the Kenyan market for maize particularly as one which has had a deficit over the years, and the first point of call for this project is to ensure that we are at least food secure, that we get enough of what we require as a country. But equally important, we need to view Kenya as a regional market, because we are within a broader market where at any one point there is a country in need of maize or other food within the region, and as guided under the protocol. And therefore we are looking at this project not just for the country but for the region. We also look at this project as one that is going to help us in producing products that can be exported to international markets.
On that note, we take a short breather. When we return, we will hear from the Cabinet Secretary in charge of irrigation, Eugene Wamalwa.
Private sector must now come in after March next year to now take advantage of all this land, and we will facilitate them. This is the way to go.
Don't go away.